The topic of the presentation is basically what it seems to me like very unique and very romantic attitudes of people, of many people in Czechoslovakia and Czech Republic about the United States and about what the United States are symbolizing. And some of these aspects, I would like to say, are very unique and certainly, I would say, measured from current perspective, and not only current perspective, completely foreign to regions like Latin America or Middle East, etc. So Milada already spoke about it. One of the very unique things, if we speak about the history of Czechoslovakia, it was already mentioned, so I will make it very short, is the fact that our first lady of our first president was an American from Brooklyn. It's not very typical for Central Europe, whereas Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk was from Hustopeče. This is some picture from Hustopeče which I found, but measured from the social status, or based on the social status, she was from sort of high society, and even though there are some rumors these days that real father of our first president was Austrian Emperor Franz Josef, it's not proven. So origins of Masaryk were very humble. So this is very unique. Masaryk, you know, we should also mention that Jan Masaryk, our foreign minister with very unfortunate history, was obviously also American citizen, and he spent a big part of his life in the United States, inspired by American culture, inspired by American music. He had a very colorful life, and he not only was a soldier in the First World War fighting for Austro-Hungarian monarchy, but he also spent quite some time in psychiatric institutions in the US because he was suffered from depressions, etc. So he was an American citizen. It shouldn't be forgotten. This is very important, and it's absolutely unique Czech phenomenon. This is called, what you see are, this is for American audience, if there are any students left here. This is called tramping. Tramping started in 1920s and 30s, and even though there were some romantic connotations inspired by German writer Karl May, there was never any such a cultural phenomenon emerged in Germany. So it's only unique for Czechoslovakia, mainly for Czech parts of Czechoslovakia, that you could have seen even during the First Republic and even during the communist regime. It was partially tolerated. A lot of these young people with a sort of like semi-military uniforms, calling tramps, who build their little tramp villages called osadas, and very much inspired by American rangers, American Western pioneers, about American nature, but mainly about by American freedom and liberty. So, and actually, the origin of the word tramp is also interesting because actually all these tramps were taking trains out of Prague to Sázava and other rivers and romantic countryside, but some of them supposedly were traveling on, somehow fixed themselves on the outer parts of the railway wagons or between the wagons, which was an activity which was also done by some tramps in the US, but otherwise there is no real connection between the American expression tramp and Czech expression tramp. But it was a very specific culture. Also, some of it was, as I said, very much inspired by loving freedom, but also there was always some little bit military inspiration as far as the uniforms is concerned. So very, very special phenomenon which is currently dying off. There is, you see the southern flag, which is currently, as you know, in the US, it's almost like showing Hitler's swastika or something, but you can still see it on many Czech tramps, villages being displayed. So it's you probably cannot tell these people that they should take it off because it's not proper anymore. But the trams were using these backpacks called usarna, which is also coming from US. If you are a proper tramp, you have to have a proper usarna. They had the names of these tramp villages called, like, inspired by America, by Wild West, Ascalona, Dashwood, many others. And so we will jump to something completely different, which is not very well known. But the father of our former president, Václav Havel, was not only his father or grandfather of Václav Havel established Lucerna Palace, as you know, but his son, Václav Havel's father, was very much inspired by America and was he was the one who brought to Czechoslovakia a Rotary Club, which is a very American institution. He was the one who, after he visited California, he helped to bring to Prague YMCA. You know, YMCA is a very favorite song of current president, a song by Village Voice, but it has nothing to do with it. But and he was also real estate developer, and it's very interesting that Barrandov, when he established Barrandov, it was a very American development of sort of urban sprawl based on very like simple urbanistic rules. And he saw some parts of California which were reminding him of this. So its inspiration for this Barrandov development was also coming from the US, by the way. As well as this terrace, which looks completely different these days, but it was, you can read it in the memoirs of Václav Havel's father, that this very building was inspired by one building on the cliffs in California. This is YMCA building. On Barrandov, it was also a site of Czech movie industry, and here you can see how it is established. The broken buildings behind are not broken buildings after some war campaign. It's a movie set, yeah. And but the whole establishment of these film ateliers was also an American inspiration based on Hollywood. After the Second World War, it's very important that first it was jazz, who was an inspiration, American inspiration, that which symbolized freedom and liberty, and it was also reflected in Czech literature. Main author was Josef Škvorecký, who was an Americanophile whole life, and the reason he admired America was also freedom, liberty, and music, I would like to emphasize. He played himself saxophone, and it was a very, also another symbol. Before electric guitar was invented, it was saxophone, like a symbol of music. This is actually not Chuck Berry, it's Bohumil Bob Schlons, and it's from the 1950s. It was the guy who was imprisoned for playing American rock and roll. This is him. So it's not all, there was not only like quite well-known suppression of music in 1970s and 80s. It was already happening in 50s, and people who were dancing rock and roll music in 1950s, it was actually very courageous activity, and these people were really prosecuted and hunted. He is some part of the newspaper from 1957. So once again, American rock and roll was a was considered to be a counterculture in the communist state. Very important moment in sort of warming up in 1960s it was the year when I was born in 1965. There was a concert of Louis Armstrong in Lucerna, which was a very revolutionary event. There might be some people here who remember it. Allen Ginsberg in 1960s, American poet, in 1966 he became, or 67 was it? I don't know. He became the king of Mayales, which is a student, celebration in May. It has been renewed actually a few years ago, so there are also kings of Mayales these days, but it was an absolutely fascinating phenomenon that it could happen that Allen Ginsberg was elected a king of Mayales under President Novotny. This is one thing that it's sort of important to know that President Václav Havel visited the US in 1968. And this is just, it's not anything scientific, it's my personal presentation, so I picked up this. By the way, Václav Havel brought Velvet Underground record from this trip, and I will come back to it a little bit. But this is kind of important. Not only tramps were important, but also country music was very important here. And here I just wanted to illustrate on albums of country group Greenhorns normalization which was happening in the country. It's 3 years after the U.S. occupation, 1971. You see this country group Greenhorns could publish an LP with only English name Greenhorns. A year later, it was already Zelenáči with Little Greenhorns. It's 1972. 1973, it's only Zelenáči. There are no Greenhorns in it. So, but still, it was an American music with Czech lyrics. This is basically well known. I will make it shorter. This is Plastic People of the Universe, but it's connected with this Banana album, and I will come later to this. It was a very important moment, actually. I think it was 1974 or 75. There was a Johnny Cash concert in Prague. Many American lovers visited this concert, and I remember that communist paper was emphasizing that Johnny Cash is a hero of working class in the US, etc. Otherwise, it wouldn't be permitted. Very important exhibition which inspired a lot of people, which happened actually next door in the second half of 70s, was this exhibition of called American West, which I myself visited. I remember people were lining up for all the way to Malostranské náměstí. There was a line, there was such a huge demand to see this exhibition of pictures from and paintings from American West. It was a fascinating phenomenon for me. Also, Ray Charles had a concert, but that was about it. For different American music in the 80s, we had to go to Budapest. Talking Heads would never be permitted to play in Prague. We had to go for it in Budapest. Here you see, by the way, and I would make it shorter, Donald Trump visited a funeral of father of his wife in communist Gottwaldov. But, sorry, in this city of Gottwaldov, it was actually interesting that there was a dissident group in the portfolio of many dissident activities in Czechoslovakia. There was a group called like Friends of the USA. This is their symbol, which was also, I believe, quite unusual. And here we come to current times, the influence of music. First, it's January of 1990, and Frank Zappa came to Prague directly from Moscow. Here you can see him with President Havel, both of them chain smoking, and which resulted, by the way, in both cases in premature deaths and health problems. This is me with Lou Reed And because after Frank Zappa visited Prague, Lou Reed was very jealous and wanted also to visit Prague and meet with President Havel, and he succeeded with it. So the role of music with Czech-American relationship was very important. And this is Havel in Congress. The reason I have Alexis de Tocqueville here is that we know that he was the author who described in most detail the role of civic society, colorful, pluralistic civil society in American life and in American society, and I think it was a strong source of inspiration also for Václav Havel, who constantly spoke about civic society. So, but it's for a special lecture. Andy Warhol's parents, or especially mother, was coming from Medilaborce, so it was still Czechoslovakia. The museum was open in this eastern Slovakian town. In the 90s, we had a wave of 30,000 young Americans relocated to Prague, and they had their own newspapers. And even focused on business, by the way. First laundromats were opened in 1991. Bookstore Globe still in place under different name. And I will cut it short because it's too long. So it was supposed to be kind of refreshing, like culture, insight into Czech romantic vision of America. So sorry about being too long. And I would like to invite all panelists now.